Hi, did everyone's Zoom session just shut out or was it just mine?
I believe it was.
Mine did too.
Okay, so are we still here with Carolyn and Scott for our session here?
We're
We were
back.
in this session Missing Indigenous Persons Toolkit. Are you back here?
I'm back. I don't see
Okay.
Scott back yet.
I'm back.
There. Okay.
Okay. Sorry everyone for the technical difficulty. Apparently another session was having technical difficulties, so our host went in and ended the session thinking they were just ending that session, and they shut down all sessions. So thank you for joining us back, and go ahead, Carolyn and Scott.
All right. Is there a way you can make us, Carolyn and I, hosts in case something else happens? But yeah, and I was introducing myself. Again, I'm Scott Finkham. I am Nimifu. I'm the Equity Program Director at United Small Tribes Foundation since 2023. And I do have family that are amongst the missing and murdered. And my wife, too, who is Tlingit, has had family members that have gone missing. And just actually this year, our youngest daughter, who we've had since she's 3 days old, she isn't our biological daughter, but we've been raising her. She's now 20 years old, and her birth mother was recently murdered in downtown Seattle. And so we've had to deal with that. So I definitely appreciate the work that the MMIWP task force has been doing and being part of the family subcommittee that put this toolkit together. I just want to say Katsiayo, and great to get to know Carolyn along this journey.
You guys are going to get to see our notes pages because I don't want to waste any time trying to change my view on that. But Scott and I both being a part of the task force, this was a letter that we shared with the toolkit just to kind of give some perspective into our frame of mind when we were writing the toolkit and some of the work that went into it. The objective of our presentation today, we'll just share about the work of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Task Force, the creation of this toolkit, which was a long project, brought a lot of stakeholders and subject matter experts to the table, and kind of the process and the purpose and some of the things that we learned along the way. It was really enlightening for a lot of us to kind of get all of these areas and different intersections of this issue to the table to look at what we need and solutions, and we all learned quite a bit.
Yeah, and on this slide just kind of shows the 7-year process that kind of brings us to where we are today, starting in 2018 when legislation directed Washington State Patrol to write a statewide report, because the unfortunate response or lack of response when an Indigenous person went missing or was murdered, needed to be addressed. So then up to today, you can see those various things that happened along the way, the creation of the 2 tribal MMIW liaisons with the Washington State Patrol, the task force that was created that both Carol and I are part of, and then the MIPA system, the Missing Indigenous Persons Alert System that is now in process. And then I think really crucial too is the AGO cold case unit. This was actually announced at a recent MMIW summit, and it was great to see that they had a cold case unit that will focus on our missing Indigenous persons. And then most recently are the release of our toolkit that we're sharing here with you here today. Each of these steps, took the input and guidance of families, legislators, and tribes, coming together to create the system and accountability and care that our Indigenous families need. Too often you'll see on the news that someone's gone missing when it's someone of the majority society, but when it's someone from either Black or Brown, you hardly hear of it. So this MMIPW task force and this toolkit will help address those needs.
So the purpose of the toolkit, basically just to provide step-by-step guidance, to give you something tangible to have in your hand, to reflect on, to refer to when somebody goes missing. It's an extreme time of crisis. Dr. Pauline Voss says that she's coined the experience of a missing person as ambiguous loss. And she says that it's been studied very intensively, but they've determined that this is one of the most devastating forms of loss that an individual can experience. And so the healing process for that and the experience itself is really complicated and chaotic. So this was really an effort to remove some of that chaos, to create a guide for advocates who are supporting families, for families who are trying to navigate a search, awareness, memorials, anything like that on their own. A guide to help communicate or maybe break down some of the confusing aspects of this issue, like jurisdiction or how to communicate and coordinate with law enforcement. So this toolkit was really intended to be able to be used by multiple different people, not just families, but by law enforcement, by advocates, by family members, people doing prevention work, advocates who are lobbying for policy change. Because we want to be able to make sure that the steps that we're putting in place that create a safer community, that help us bring our missing people home, these are relevant and can be used for anybody. You know, it is an Indigenous person's toolkit, but the steps and the actions within it can benefit all of us. But this document is grounded in Indigenous knowledge. Our families and subject matter experts came together. We wanted to make sure that it was rooted in culture, that it was trauma informed, and that it would answer many of the questions and the challenges that families face when a loved one is missing. One of the challenges that we faced in that task was not making it an encyclopedia. We wanted to keep it easy to understand, easy to read, and something that you could glance through. So it is a living document, and there was legislation tied to the directive of this that says that it will be updated regularly or yearly. So as policies change, as new tools come available, then we'll be able to update this document as we learn more about this issue as well.
The collaboration of get us together. We didn't just want to have just one voice. We want to bring many voices into the creation of this toolkit, and especially the ones with the lived experience. That they'll be able to come in and share the challenges that they encountered. So we get their input and guidance from the law enforcement agencies as well. What can and can't they do helps us put this toolkit together. We knew stakeholders had to come from those various backgrounds, in order to get this taken care of. The different jurisdictions that our Indigenous people encounter, be it state, federal, or tribal jurisdictions, we need input from all of those. The urban native experience, the tribes on reservations and those living there, we needed everyone's voices, many of those voices to come together to create this toolkit. As Carolyn mentioned, it wasn't just designed for families with missing people. It could go family advocates, survivors, those experts who shared their experiences. We need everyone's insight and guidance. One thing that I liked about this toolkit when we put together, we didn't want to go too much into the history of MMIWP because we didn't want to re-traumatize some people. We wanted to make sure that this toolkit could be used for someone to, hey, I got a missing person. What do I need to do? I don't need to read about the history. I just want to know what steps need to go to get me there to help find our missing loved one. And one thing that I kind of appreciate too in putting this together with the collaboration, just the acronym. We thought the MMIWP, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and People, and the MMIWR, Missing Indigenous Relatives. So there are a lot of input that went into this. I took everyone's perspectives, and hopefully you'll find this will be something useful. But it is a living document, and it will be changed. It is mandated that we'll do this annually. So we will probably learn each year and get better each year. But hopefully sometime we'll see that we'll find that missing murdered Indigenous people, that those numbers will start going down, that we'll find them quicker and faster.
Thank you, Scott. thank you for touching on those acronyms. That was something that we, even as people who are ingrained in this issue and have been on the task force, sometimes we were still like, what is that one? And so we will talk about some of, like, we'll use some of the acronyms in here. And so I'll try to remember to elaborate on exactly what those are. But anytime you hear MMIW, MMIWP, MMIWR, we're really just talking about this issue as a whole for people. It started with MMIW, and so that W has kind of stayed, but it's not, it doesn't discriminate. It's not gender exclusive. So when we were putting the toolkit together, we wanted to make sure that it had tools, you know, like that there were directions within it. And so we wrote a letter to the family that we shared at the opening, and this was kind of just offering our insight and our purpose, our love, our everything that we put into it. It wasn't an empty process. It was very meaningful and spirit-led for all of us. But it has these step-by-step instructions to report a person missing. It has a list of all of the information that you'll need to gather, to have on hand, checklists and contact logs, timelines to help keep you organized. Sometimes you don't think about some of the notes that you need to take or the information to collect while you're still gathering initial information, and you don't know if your loved one is missing yet, maybe. You just don't know where they're at. And so as we're gathering that information, that becomes really helpful, but making sure that we document it, we're able to review it. Our key contacts, who do you talk to, when, where, why, what did they say? Document all of that. And then in the back, there's also some lists for regular contacts, resources that you might need, other databases that might be helpful, like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children or the National Missing and Unidentified Person System. There's some guidance on media, which is really important because media can be really re-traumatizing and re-victimizing. There's information on jurisdiction. And then what if somebody is missing long-term? How do we support those families when their loved one doesn't come home right away? You know, and the majority of our missing are found relatively quickly, but there are those that are long-term, and how we support those families is really unique and kind of uncharted ground for each family. We've also got some templates in the back that we'll share, and those are just going to be tools that can kind of start a foundation for your documentation and your investigation, and items that you can give to law enforcement when you gather information. My mom missing 25 years ago, one of my friends had the foresight to do this for me, to keep a log and to document everything. I can't remember any of it. In the moment I could, I remembered every single bit, and I would never forget an ounce of it. Steel trap, this was important. It changed my life to the core. 5 years later, I couldn't remember any of it, none of it, names, places, anything. Thank God she kept those notes, because I was able to go through, reflect, update my memory. 5 years later, 10 years later, other details and other people have things that they share. I can look back into those notes and see if it corroborates anything or if it connects the dot. So those notes are really important. We wanted to give people kind of a starting point.
And here we kind of have a breakdown of how, you know, families can use the kit, and hopefully we can get families to really start looking at this list before someone goes missing, so they're a little bit prepared. And yes, they're probably going to more than likely get families that need this when they, oh, I got a missing loved one, let me go look at the toolkit. But if we get them to be proactive and see some of these things they need to be aware of to help prepare. I just recently was notified of someone that went missing, and fortunately the people had some idea what to share. So again, use it to learn, you know, where and when to report. You know, who do you go to? Who has jurisdiction? You know, as I mentioned, the many jurisdictions that our Indigenous people encounter, we need to be aware who has priority. Oftentimes it may be the federal government you have to look to. Use it to build a timeline. You know, when was the last time you saw the person? You know, who may have been there to see that person? So who could have also maybe seen them from across the street or in the area? And as Carolyn noted, just being organized. taking notes and having that information all in one place. If you're given a case number by different legal agencies, make sure you write those down, get the names of the officers, update the toolkit contact logs. You may have started this missing person when someone else was officer in that position and that officer left. And so just keep that up to date. Use it to request an actual MEPA alert. Get that out. We got templates that we can have people that quickly get an alert out really fast. I'm currently subscribed to the MEPA alert, and we get those daily. Sometimes when we have 3 or 4 a day, these alerts come out via email, and some of them do take a while, and others, I'm happy to say that the cancellation comes out shortly after it gets announced. But at least that quick response, we get people notified that there's a missing person out there. And sometimes that person may not even know that they're missing, and then just check in and they're found quickly. Use it to connect with help and resources. Who can support you? The emotional, mental strain, physical strain that this can have on people. Contact the cold case unit, tribal advocates, the Washington State Patrol liaisons, for support, and they can help you with referrals maybe to other agencies as well. I use it to learn how to share information safely. Sometimes it gets curious who you're sharing the information with. Follow the guidance for working with news media and posting on social media. Sometimes you may find out that legal experts will say, well, we don't want to release that information right now. So be careful who you share things with, because it may exacerbate the search for your missing loved one. So be aware and work with them as needed. Use it to understand the next steps. As you go through each steps, what do I do next? What information do I need to collect? Thing that I found really critical too was making sure you have a most recent photo of your missing loved one, and make sure it's not one that's been doctored up and that you had taken professionally. We hopefully it's something that how they appear almost on daily, so people know what to look for. So hopefully you can see that this toolkit, again, if you can be proactive, get familiar with it now before someone goes missing. I have 2 daughters, so I kind of keep that in mind when they leave my company. Okay, which way did they go? What were they wearing? So that I know. And it's part of just being prepared and proactive.
And hopefully none of that information is ever needed, but in the chance that it is, you can save critical time by knowing where to find it or what you need. So on coordinated support, when we're working as a team doing when families need support, it's going to be, they might need an advocate to support in one aspect of things, and they might need multiple forms of support. They might need cultural and traditional supports, legal support. As a general advocate, my role is to kind of help navigate through what they need, find those resources, and kind of help suss that out. We want to help the family find a trusted person or trusted multiple people to act like a spokesperson or act as a spokesperson to help as calls come in, to help organize, to help write statements, to help share on social media, just to help keep your memory right too. You need that emotional support. You can use the toolkit's contact logs again and templates. And so that coordination would allow multiple of us to gather information and then come back together and compile it. Coordinate with the Washington State Patrol tribal liaisons for resources and jurisdictional support. Sometimes those liaisons have other families, other situations, and other cases that may be similar, or they may have found additional resources that may be able to come into play or be used in your investigation. And then really important, I can't emphasize this enough, to access your peer and cultural supports, talking circles, elders, advocates. I've got some of my most beautiful and powerful inspiration, motivation, faith, purpose from visiting with other families and from talking with elders. This is a timeless issue. Our loved ones have been going missing since time immemorial. Hearing how our elders have coped with that and how that issue had affected them, how they found strength, helps me. But together, these practices, everything that's in this toolkit, you can really put them together to create a coordinated action where every party involved and every stakeholder has a role rather than chaos. So again, a tool to put in your hand and give some direction and guidance, coordination and informed. And again, it's informed by experts. We had Tor Parker from the Washington State Cold Case Unit help give feedback and share advocacy in those resources. How does she support families of long-term missing? How does she navigate court processes with them? We have the Washington State Tribal Liaisons in to help us suss out jurisdiction and coordinating with other jurisdictional agencies. And then tribal leaders and tribal members to share how this affects like who you would contact in your tribe and how it affects different tribal services and programs that the loved one may be in or that you may be eligible for.
Now, these next two slides going to show some of the samples of the templates that we have. This first one is for, when a loved one goes missing, your investigators that you report it to are going to ask a lot of details, about, when they were disappeared. As you begin gathering this information, this timeline template can help you keep it all in one place, so you're organized. I know my spouse will grab an envelope and jot notes down, and then you can grab another envelope and trying to keep those together in one place can be difficult. So hopefully you can use this toolkit to have it all in one place. A place to describe the known circumstances that when your loved one went missing, what time of day was it? What were they wearing? What direction did they go? Who were they with? Who, what happened prior to their disappearance? Were they out watching a movie? Were they at a party or celebration? Were they just out for a walk? And did they tell you what time they were going to return, but they didn't return? Those kind of details will help out. Did they have an argument and did they leave in frustration? Or were they feeling like they jumped in a car where they knew someone, or you saw the car and you didn't recognize it, or oh, that's so-and-so's car. So have those kind of details ready, and this will help you keep organized. The next template example will actually then, who are you been talking to? So organize those contacts. Who were you speaking to? And write their name and contact information down so you have, again, that all in one place. And as I mentioned before, those contacts may change. And so you may want to have, I spoke with so-and-so before, but now this person's in charge. So at least they can, pass on the information, and you can continue and not be bogged down to try to backtrack and retell your story. That somewhere they know, this is where the information is stored. So having that timeline, having a good collection of who your contacts are will help this process. And if you yourself as the family member can't do it, that's with the advocates. Someone else can help collect this information for you as well.
As advocates, this toolkit can be really helpful for us because it can help us provide a resource to the family, can be a resource to us, especially our urban advocates. Maybe it's a DV advocate or a trafficking advocate that the family has gone to who is helping to look. And as DV advocates and trafficking advocates, we know the reality of the danger that folks who are experiencing those victimizations are in. So as an advocate, this toolkit can be really helpful in even connecting the family to those cultural supports. But there's many different systems. And as an advocate, sometimes I'm connecting a family member to, I might connect them to Emily Main at the Washington State Patrol. And I might also be connecting to somebody at the National Missing and Unidentified System, Unidentified Person System to get that missing person in their database and connecting them with the family to make sure that they can ask and answer any of the questions. And sometimes, like, they ask the size of the left foot and the right foot. That's not always the same. Sometimes, so there's a lot of questions in there that might be uncommon, that might be really important in identifying. But advocates can help make sure that the information that we're sharing and that the support we're providing is trauma informed and grounded in these cultural resources. It also expedites the reporting process and the investigation process. If we are gathering data and we've got a coordinated response going on, and we can hand that information in it's sorted and organized over to law enforcement, that can help in their investigation. But also long-term, so think about this again, long-term, if we go back, we can look at who, like if the investigator has changed, or maybe, in my case, my son is 32 now, and he's decided that he wants to dig into my mom's case a little bit. And so it has tools for him to look back and say, wait, you talked to that person and they're related to this person. It's just valuable. And if nothing else, for family history, it's become a part of my story. It's become something that I hope we can lay to rest when she's recovered. Families of missing people, we go through a lot of different psychological experiences, and unknown, a deep unknown. When an advocate can understand that, then you can help them navigate it. You can provide more trauma-informed care. But also for advocates, it gives us kind of a guide to know what's next, what partners are available. Provides clear and culturally grounded guidance. It also offers a lot of information on collaborating and understanding law enforcement. As advocates, we partner with law enforcement a lot through DV and the advocacy piece, but on the missing persons piece, there's a different kind of advocacy with law enforcement, and it's very heavy there, which I found really valuable. But assisting in navigating these jurisdictional confusion or jurisdictional challenges, like right now, the Puyallup Reservation, we have over 5 levels of jurisdiction. So there is a lot of confusion if somebody goes missing, or if somebody is found murdered, how they go about, who's going to lead that investigation, how they determine it. It wastes a lot of time when it comes to a critical matter. But there's so many tools within this toolkit, opportunities to learn and share as advocates, as law enforcement, as family members.
And the guidance that for this long-term support and healing is also very critical. As it says here, this toolkit encourages families to seek healing through culturally grounded, community-based supports, because healing and justice efforts are intertwined. Having that connection with our culture, having the community connections helps sustain us. It's part of our resilience. And here are some just examples of where we can find the long-term support and healing. First and foremost, through peer support, talking about it, of what you're going through with others, through talking circles, meeting with elders, and having the cultural and community connections through your peer community can help out. What tribal programs are out there that can offer support, culturally, domestic violence programs, victim services that provide that support that we'll need to sustain yourself. You do not have to take this on by yourself. You can engage with therapy, spiritual cultural advisors, or community healing events. I know we do often have with the MMYW task force, healing circles, family circles to come together. Again, connecting with others that had the same experience can be healing for you. You may feel like you don't want to go to those things, but give it a try. Find out what healing you need and find that support. Getting the assistance from the community, I think is crucial. That whatever they can have, it might be out at a powwow or something, just to be around others, to share. At the United Indians of All Tribes powwow, we've been fortunate to have Lily Gladstone host an MMIW special these last 2 years. It just brought families together to support one another and say, yes, our need for support is being shared with others. And the community came together and supported the families. Request access to other resources. You know, Carol has been mentioned again, the role of advocates. They're there to help you. You know, if they don't have the sources, they can refer you to resources, you know, for your overall well-being. Tribal victim services, community-based programs are there. Mother Nation here in the Seattle area, King County, has been a good resource that provides support. And there is unfortunately a cost that can go with this. That as far as if you're missing someone, you might have to take time off work, or the need to print flyers or to travel. You know, what kind of financial support is out there? Or when you do find you're missing one and it turns out that they're no longer with us, you know, do you have the funds to for burial expenses, or for traveling, or moving the body from one place to another? You know, this toolkit and long support, you know, is there to help you. When my daughter's birth mother was killed or murdered, we actually did get some good support from the Seattle Police Department and their victim compensation unit, in that they actually covered the entire funeral costs for the birth mother. And they had a victim advocate there that has been helping us along the way. So there is support out there for people, and this toolkit will help you find those directions.
Using media and awareness tools. Social media and local news, they amplify our searches and awareness. There's many, you know, in 2016, when the MMIW movement first started taking off in Washington State, there were only maybe 3 or 4 national level MMIW social media pages. Since then, we've expanded the definition and including all people, but I don't even know how many social media pages there are out there to help raise awareness for our missing loved ones. Some of them are regional, national, some focused on trafficking, some focused on homeless, but there's a lot of social media pages out there to help us find our missing people and to support families who are going through that. There's support for missing, support for families of missing on social media. And it's a kind of on the spiritual side, the psychological side, and the impact of missing people for families. And that's a valuable Facebook page. There's Missing and Taken Indigenous People, which is a good page to follow. She updates that regularly. She's located in Rochester, Washington. There's Missing and Murdered Native Americans, Missing Indigenous People and Families First. So there's a lot of social media out there that can help you spread the word really fast. I manage Missing and Murdered Native Americans, and a couple of years ago, we shared a poster of 2 children who were part of a non-custodial parent abduction. It wasn't, you know, mom and dad they wanted their babies, and we got that, but we needed to get those babies home to grandma and make sure that they were safe. And somebody seen a poster on our Facebook page and messaged and said, these kids that you're looking for are in my apartment complex. The car matches the poster is here, and they're outside playing on the playground equipment. So, you know, we asked them if they would please, you know, contact law enforcement and notify them, and got some details from them, you know, date, time, location, what did the kiddos look like, where was the car parked, apartment complex, all of that information, shared it with law enforcement as well, just to make sure, you know, that it made it through, you know, made it full through the full course. And the next morning, those children were removed from the missing persons list. Their case was closed. So we don't know. We don't always hear back whether the tips that we provide on social media or that we get on social media help bring loved ones home, but we like to think that it does. And I know as a family member, when loved ones posters are put out there, that for the family, that's a step of, oh, somebody's going to see that. Like, it's just, we want to be everywhere that we can. We want to put posters everywhere that you can, and you can only do so much at one time by yourself. And so social media is really powerful. Using the toolkit templates for posts and for safety precautions. There's certain information about our loved ones that we might not want to share. that might make them more vulnerable to traffickers, that might make them, let's see, that might jeopardize their case. We want to coordinate with law enforcement always to make sure that we're aligning our messaging and our posts with information that will benefit them and that will help their case, or that we're doing it, that we're coordinating the time of those releases so that they have the staff on hand when a post goes out, that they can respond to tips as they come in. If we don't coordinate that way, we may be getting a lot of tips that law enforcement can't respond to, and then we lose some momentum. So that coordination is really important. Also in coordinating maybe a 1-800 number or a tip line, and that they can have somebody man that who's able to compile all the tips and go out and do the investigation on them. Hosting vigils, talking circles, awareness events to honor our missing loved ones. Sometimes families need help with that. I never found how do I say this? Sometimes it's hard to help ourselves. Sometimes it's hard to do this for ourselves. So for advocates and community to host vigils, to provide these safe spaces for families to come and share and get the word out and kind of support one another. Family advocates can use social media to spread that awareness quickly. Thousands and thousands of people in one click. And we can share it to different not platforms, yes, but different search, what's the word? We can share it to different places. For example, I might share it with public transit and Pierce County Transit and the buses. I might share it with the tow yards. Hopefully, maybe their car got towed. I might share it with treatment centers and shelters. Just around, you can kind of see where coordinating those posts and where we share it can be, the different venues can be helpful on social media and via email. Sometimes I'll even share it and share with hotels. I'll email hotels, but there's a lot of venues to raise awareness and to use social media and media. David Rose shares our missing people and high profile cases regularly. So when we can coordinate with law enforcement, they can request and share what information with him that they need or that will help bring that case to justice. Another thing that is really important here is that we have clear, verified information, and the toolkit does that. You know, it gives us kind of the foundation and the framework for making these posts. What is exactly what is needed, everything that is needed. The person's name, age, photo, last known location, and contact number for law enforcement or the family spokesperson is very important. And then I mentioned earlier a little bit about the re-victimization. So again, advocates can help with that and help tailor a message and a post that's gonna hopefully reduce that re-victimization. But Craigslist is a valuable form of media for tools. It's free. So family members can make a post on Craigslist and just looking for their loved one or lost connection. They can do, I did a billboard because the billboard was $1,000 at the time. It was $1,000 a month, and a newspaper ad, her poster in my hometown newspaper was $80 a day. So there are things like that we can use for awareness tools and media that can be helpful. We have some local businesses sometimes that will share on their reader boards, or that they'll put on their big billboards outside. So there's a lot of venues and avenues to look at for awareness.
Hi, Carolyn, this is Sally. I just wanted to let you know we have about 5 minutes left for our session.
Thank you. Some of the key resources and contacts, and we'll share these out. This is our talking circle. We host a family talking circle once a month just to provide a space for families to come together, to provide peer support, to kind of share resources, share what's on our mind. We're coming into the holiday season. That's a hard time. But this family talking circle, you can scan the QR code down there and share that. It's available on the task force website, but this is a resource for families and for advocates to share with families as well. And then Scott, you want to do the
Yeah, and as I mentioned this before, the missing in person is person's alert. Sign up for that so you can get notified when there is a poster ready to go out that we got someone missing, and you might have the chance of you recognizing the person and help locate that missing person so they can get reunited with their families. So sign up for it. Comes through email. Again, I encourage you to do it if you haven't done it. I find it useful and very grateful to see that it comes up fairly quickly. And this toolkit will be helping you, to design such things, posters, and get those alerts out as fast as you can. Again, scan these codes. Maybe we can share these slides with the group after as well.
Thank you, Scott. And then finally, when, I don't know how many of you were able to listen to Tim Raynon's keynote this morning. He had me in tears at 80% of that. It was so powerful. But one of the things that he said that I reflected on, made me reflect on this is healing comes from the people and community. It comes from the people. We don't need systems for healing. They help. We need them for justice, but that was really powerful to me. And he said, there is no healing without justice. And so this toolkit can help us expedite that, can help be a avenue to justice for our missing loved ones. Scott, and my contact information is down there. And I'll just go back to this one. So y'all can subscribe if you didn't get a chance to.
Thank you, Carolyn and Scott. Wonderful information session, a lot of resources available there. So if you're able to share those QR links, I know there would be a lot of us that would want to sign up for those notifications. We did have one question in the chat room, and so it's a long question. So what are the eligibility thresholds for getting support from MMIW/MIPA resources? As in, does a missing person need to be enrolled, eligible for enrollment, or have a certain proximity to an enrolled relative? Do they need to have a connection to a federally recognized tribe, or is a connection to any tribe sufficient?
That's a really, really good question. It's going to depend on program. I work at the Puyallup Tribe Domestic Violence Program as our MMIWP advocate. And if the person identifies as Native American, we will provide what services we can. Some of our funding is limited to members of federally recognized tribes. So the amount of funding or the amount of services and support we're able to provide varies based on where that funding might come from. But if I've even helped families find non-natives who are missing on our reservation or who are seen on our reservation. Because this is our tribal community and we're all connected. And if it's not safe for any of us, that affects all of us. For my program, no, they don't need to be enrolled. They need to identify as Native American. They need to have some lineage, heritage. Maybe the family member they're looking for is Native. Yeah, it kind of just depends, and every organization is going to be a little bit different. But because of policies, a lot of us aren't enrolled, or we're not members of federally recognized tribes. We're here to help all of our loved ones and break away from that colonized mindset as much as we can when it comes to helping our people and being safe.
Whoops, I was on mute. Thank you, Carolyn. I hope that answered your question, Jess. It looks like he said thank you, so yes. Thank you to both Carolyn and Scott today. Awesome presentation, a lot of good resources. They've given you their contact information. And also, Scott and Carolyn, if you could make sure to send your mailing address to Rachel, our conference coordinator, so she can send a small token of appreciation for your presentation today. As for the conference participants, a reminder about doing a survey. If you like this presentation, please do a survey for them. Give them some good thumbs up. The next session is the breakout session 3. There'll be 2 more sessions offered at 2 o'clock. The first session is protecting your children from offenders, and the second session is health coverage, balancing benefits, access, and coordination for Native youth in foster care. So those sessions will start in about 9 minutes. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone.